Hello everyone, welcome to Sorare Thursday Club, episode 9. I'm your host, Jesse, aka Swiss Mafia. Alongside me, co-host, regular guy, Ricky, aka Sorare Mamba. Rick, how are you today?
I'm doing a lot better than our usual co-host, Johnny Dore, aka Dornado, who is on his way back from Liverpool as we speak after Everton got their asses handed to them by Fulham, 3-1, put themselves one step closer to relegation. So I'm in a lot better mood than he is. So hi, Johnny, when you watch this, hope you're doing better than your team.
That is painful. I saw he sent us a picture today. He was speeding up the motorway, chasing who was the footballer? There's a centre back, wasn't it?
Godfrey. Ben Godfrey.
Ben Godfrey. Yeah. And he showed him his NFT, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was holding his limited Ben Godfrey out the window on his phone at him. So yeah,
super fan. And also, so you'll notice alongside us today, we've got another guest from the Sorare community. So today we've got Goenry, as he's known as, or to me and Rick, it's Yip. So Yip, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi guys. Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to this episode. The interesting thing about my opportunity, I suppose, is I've gone off and randomly bought in about 100 players, and actually none of it seems to work very well. Although I've limped through a couple of wins, so I've won a couple of cards. But yeah, it seems like a good opportunity with you guys setting up this podcast to have a little chat, see what might be cold from my team, and restructure, get it back up to.
You obviously didn't watch last week, then, Yip.
We've all been there though, haven't we? Started out on the platform and spanked a load of money on random things that don't make any sense, but they're nice and shiny and they're players we like. So yeah, been there myself.
Perfect. So anyway, the question we've asked in general is, should you restructure? And the thinking behind this is the market is down right now. So a lot of people will be looking at what they brought in, and actually those players now suddenly look like they may have been brought in at highs rather than actually a good price. The game's obviously changed. They've had update in the rules, especially over the course of this year. So a lot of people are stuck with ports that are potentially not bringing any returns, and that's a tricky situation to be in. I'm sure it's not an unfamiliar situation to a lot of people. And the challenge always at that point is, do you get your balls out and go, right, okay, now's the time to restructure and take the hit, or do you sit there and wait and hope that the port goes back up, or ETH rises, and try and balance out? I think it's probably a mass danger to just looking at the ticker or the value of your portfolio and going, I'm stuck now because I'm 50% down or whatever it is. So yeah, that's kind of a theory, or the reason we're kind of looking at this, because we think it's something that probably quite familiar to a lot of people out there. So Yip, the mic's over to you. Tell us a little bit about your journey to date in Sorare and kind of how you've reached this point and the point of potential restructure.
Yeah, thanks. So I think it was probably about a year ago. Johnny, golfing mate of, introduced me to Sorare, and it kind of started there, where very early days didn't really have any ETH to chuck in there, so played the common cards just to suss it out, and then yeah, kind of went in, bought a few cards, that kind of signing in bonus that you have to buy 5 cards, so at the time there was no limiteds either, so it was just like, right, go, let's just chuck a couple £100, see what I can do here. Bought a few cards, just to get that bonus. I think it was a Japanese midfielder, Shindo, that I won. At the time, he was not worth a lot of money, and I kind of sold it on just for a bit of profit. So at the start, it was still very a novice kind of beginnings, and then limiteds were badged as like the next best thing. That kind of wave of excitement kind of spurred me to chuck in a few more £100 in. Made slight errors in those periods, buying the first out of 1,000 cards, not realizing there was a bit of a market for those, so overpaid a bit for those. And then over the the period as I started to get used to the concept of the game, and like, looking at the different leagues that are available, picking the seasons. So, Europeans were coming up as I was starting to look to buy. That's when I've kind of started to throw some more money in. Premier League started. That was again another wave of excitement. Again, I was like, oh, caught up in the buying of a load of cards at inflated prices, and then the market dropped. So yeah, I guess I'm about just shy of a year into Sorare. It's not been that bad. I think as we will have a look at the gallery valuations, I haven't lost out on too much. But the main thing is there is still plenty of utility in my squad. I can still churn a few teams out week in, week out, just to keep me interested in the fun side of things. But yeah, obviously would be great if I can win a few things and keep, even if it's just the ETH, just to tick it along and keep me, being able to buy in other players, and yeah, get a bit more, a few more wins out of it, I suppose. So that's my journey, I suppose.
Nice, nice. Should we get your let's get your port up on screen? Probably give a little bit more context to it. Yep, here's your gallery, right? So you got current value of 978, 0.61. What did you buy in at? Can you remember?
It's probably down by half, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 1.2 or something that I put in.
1.2. Okay. So, and then in terms of like who you've bought, so you kind of talked us through, and it sounded like a bit of a scattergun approach. You obviously got Matthew's a solid MLS keeper.
Yeah.
That then goes into, you got French League, Premier League, Japanese, Russian, Spanish, Argentinian,
Oh, it goes around all over the place.
Austrian. You get around, yeah, you do. There's
I
literally a
think,
bit of everything here, I think,
yeah.
and a baseball player.
Oh yeah.
So the baseball player is just a random win in. I don't even know how I managed it.
Okay.
It's like
Oh,
a
like
complete.
in the baseball common league.
Yeah, the common league thing. Yeah.
Oh, there's a fiver right there. Boom.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. That's an easy £5, that is.
Take it.
Cool. What else have you got? And then a lot of limiteds. So I can see you went mad for the Premiership limiteds when they came up as well.
Yeah.
John Joe Shelby. Right. So I think a quick spot analysis suggests that it was like many people, a scattergun approach at the start, right?
Mhm.
You
Definitely.
got 75 limiteds, 13 rares. So what's your is there a current tactic with any of this?
So, I think at the beginning it was literally just to buy 5 random rares at the time, just to get that bonus in. So there wasn't any tactics in that sense. And then, um, there was kind of that period where I wanted to play the game, so I bought in MLS and Japanese team, like players in, because that's when they were playing, and that was, I suppose, the most consolidated uh, approach, where I was like keeping on who was in Asia, who was in like the whole of the Americas. So you can see the Argentinian kind of players creeping through, and then as it moved across to Europe, um, I didn't have enough money to buy rare players there. But then I was kind of like holding off some money that I had, and then Premier League came in, and then it just went, oh God, okay, I'm going to just buy loads of Premier League players, and then more recently, what I've been trying to do was kind of like focus on the teams that I can play, and like if there's any gaps, and then I started filling those up. So um, what's been really beneficial is like the pro leagues, which allows you to have one common, because I don't have goalies for a lot of them. I was then able to like put in a squad for the pro leagues. Caps has been really helpful as well, in that sense, because yeah, I don't need to have a whole squad of average 50 pluses. I can throw in a few lower averages in the team to bulk up some more decent players. So that's how more recently I think the way the game has changed has actually recognized that some of the beginners might benefit from the structure that they've put together, and I think that's definitely seen me engage in the game a bit more and starting to research a bit more.
Got you. Cool. Okay. And so you come to the point where you're willing or thinking that now is the right time to restructure. What kind of got you there, and also what have you got in mind, kind of where you want to focus as well, just to keep lead me and Rick down the right path?
Yeah, so I'd say like the E thresholds would be a good place to start to build a bit more value in the game, and then be able to start to slowly accumulate other cards through that approach. And I think some of the limiteds are always handy for one of the two caps, just to keep that fun aspect of it in there. But yeah, mainly I think the 240 rare for the 0.02, and then
cool. So prioritize 240 rare, and then the additional limited preferential if possible, just for the fun aspect and also the potential additional ETH. Yeah.
Was there? Have you got any limited goalkeepers in there? Was there any? Have you got any limited goalkeepers?
I've got Nardi. So Paul Nardi, he's a starter for Ghent, and then Johnny Placide. I don't know the pronunciation if it's right or not, but and then I do have other limited goalies, but at the moment they're kind of not playing. So Fukumoto he moved to Frontal and he's now just a backup keeper for them at the moment. And then a lot of my American limited goalies are all just subs at the moment as well.
Cool. That's all right. I got a plan.
Cool.
I've got a plan. I'm thinking you've got a rare goalie for America for the summer, and you've got a couple of limited goalies for the time being for the next 8 or so games. So I reckon all Asia, all America, rare 240 summer. We've got the goalie to use, so we don't need to buy one. So let's get some solid 7-8 players to fill out that summer Asia, America, rare 240 with the goalie. And you've got a couple of limited, so you can use maybe a rare 220 as well with one of the limited goalies. And then you can keep a handful of your current limiteds that you like as well to chuck out a limited 240 and a limited 220 with a common goalkeeper. So I reckon make use of your rare goalie while we've got him and earn some ETH over the summer, bank some money up, and then you can use that to buy another goalie or spread out into rares when they come back. That's what I'm thinking.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. What about you, Jesse? Is that something you thought of?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same. So his current port value is 978. So let's say you take off McMath's value, you're left with just under 600 quid.
I guess I'm thinking there's 3 steps to the selling bit that comes first. So you've got step 1, which is obviously getting the mentality, or recognizing you've got to do it and actually doing it, which is hard enough in itself. Step 2, which is probably even harder, which is the actual selling piece, and that's the bit I'm considering when we're doing this gallery build, because we looked at the value of the Ips gallery and it's just below, say, 600 quid. But and obviously we're taking math off that as well, of his total to reach that figure. But realistically, are you going to get the full amount, say 600-ish quid, just selling to the market when the market's down? And also, to be perfectly frank, a lot of your players are duds at the minute, so they're not just going to shift, even at floor price. So I had a little look around to see kind of what it's like at the minute. Discord, if you're not using it at the minute or haven't in the past, I'd highly recommend using Discord for selling your players, just negotiating. Because that's where they do it, and they have separate groups for it on there. Average prices or offers on there at the minute are 60 to 90%, depending on the type of player. Ballpark figure, probably I reckon most time you get offered 60 and you'll get them to 70. if you get better deals, probably gonna be around the 80 mark. And if you're trading, which is also worth considering, people like Pavel Trader, Rody Boss, a few others that will send across to you. They often trade around. I mean, they can take the piss sometimes, but they often trade at around 120%, maybe a little bit more. So my feeling would be, and Rick, tell me if you've got sort of a better idea. My feeling would be, when you're thinking about the selling part initially, list all your players at floor price. Wait for the better ones to sell. Don't get too impatient, but also be open to, if someone offers you 90% on a player, that's probably better. Well, that is better than you're going to get from selling them in bundles anyway.
Yeah.
So 90% on a player is not too bad. And also be open to the idea of selling at a loss, i.e. maybe 80%, or trading at 120% for those dud players, because otherwise you're going to have to sit on them. I've had to do it myself before. The way to look at it is, they're not earning you any money right now or giving you anything right now, sat there like they are. But if they can contribute to 50 quid in ETH, then maybe that makes up for it. But obviously you have to add up the figures yourself and see how that makes you feel. Rick, got any thoughts on that?
No, I agree with what you said.
There you go.
You're so wise and knowledgeable. And I was actually putting a bid on someone in the background, so I didn't fully.
So you weren't really listening either. Perfect.
Well, the missus is on a Hindu, and I've been out all day, enjoying myself. So yeah, I'm a little spacey.
Can't blame you, mate. So yeah, does that make sense? Kind of what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the like you said, market's kind of moved since last month or so. So some of the valuations kind of, I suppose you just have to get your head round. You might be looking at a bigger loss, but the rest of the market is down, so you're buying at that similar rate as well. So I think that's the best way.
I think rare market is probably the one to target at the moment as well. It seems with the changes they've made, super rare used to be pegged at like 3 times a rare price, now seems to be up 4, 5, 6. And I think uniques are sort of that market's been it was stagnated for a long time. It's sort of gone up a bit as well, and I think rares are really low at the moment. They haven't had that kick on yet. So yeah, you'd think that the rare market's the one to drag up, and while they seem to be like fielding the limited cards, it's like the play for fun. Here's 50 quid, buy the players you like and stick them in. I think the rare one is probably the one that's still really low in my opinion, and has the biggest potential for rises back to the moon.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm with you, Rick. I mean, I restructured again, or rebought in properly again in November, I think it was, and did the same thing. I dabbled with limiteds and then realised that rare is where I wanted to be. If the question is, can you afford to be there as well? I would suggest. Well, we've had a little look at your gallery now. We both believe that you can afford to be there. So the plan is now to kind of move on to the next section, which actually focuses on what you can build. So obviously in the background, in the next, I don't know, starting tomorrow, for example, you might start listing your players, selling, and you'll have your own strategy on that. We've obviously shared a few thoughts ourselves. But then the next part after that is, once you raise your capital, or maybe you're going to be trading in for them, is kind of set yourself the strategy and start building that gallery again. And obviously then be strong on your strategy. So kind of what we've got for you today is we're going to run through, I think, did we say how many players? 7 to 9 players?
Yeah, I think we said 8 with maybe a wild card.
There you go. Yeah, 8 rares, a wild card. Within that, we thought probably, just based on values, we'd go 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 2 forwards. It's negotiable. The reason we're doing that, the keeper's the hardest one. You got that one nailed on already, which is great. Obviously, if something happens to McMath or Beavers comes in and plays again, then you're stuffed a little bit. But that's the dice roll you play with smaller squads. Forwards are pricier, which is why we've got 2, but there are a few bargains out there. So what we'll do is we'll go through. We're going to start with the forwards again, because probably that's the most, I would argue, most important position, is just getting that first decent one in. And then we'll work our way back through from defenders, midfielders into that, to give you your finalised shortlist. And me and Rick will pitch an option to you each time, and you let us know your thoughts on that, and maybe if we can, we get to a consensus on who we think's the better option and put together a live list that you can then take away. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. One thing I've realised, guys, is we've had a Sorare bomb sat here for like, I don't know how long now, so we should probably get rid of these as well, shouldn't we? It's become a tradition with guests.
Just what I need.
So what's everyone got to say?
I've actually got a little bit of Newcastle Brown Ale with a Peaky Blinders rum that someone bought me for Christmas. So
nice. Yep. What have you got?
A little Talisker single malt, which I'll drink separately and then chase it with some Doom Bar.
Nice.
Rather than mixing it up.
And I've done the opposite, and I put Lafroy in with a Corona, actually. That well-known combination of Lafroy and Corona.
Such a nice mix we've got going on. Yeah.
Sante, boys.
Cheers.
Sante. Brouillard.
Yep. Same as always. Horrible.
Yeah. Oh.
Cool.
Now let's spend some money.
Let's spend some money. Right. So, Ricky T, do you want to go first with the first choice striker? Maybe go with your
right?
your forward. Maybe go with your better option or your pricier option if there is one.
All right. I put my pen behind my ear so you know I mean business. I present to the table Lars Veldwick.
Ooh.
Plays in the K-League for Suwon. Looks a bit like a young Sergio Ramos to me. He is South African. And about 100 quid, I think you can get him for, which is quite a pricey chunk of the budget, but strikers obviously cost a load. The reason I like him as a pick is these spiky scores that he can put in. For 100 quid, you're likely to get someone that can chuck in duds occasionally, but he has the ability to put in some nice numbers as well. You can see he's started off this season already with last 2 games, 3 goals and an assist. He subs on for like an hour and 70 minutes sometimes, because I think it's the K-League rules where they have to play a certain amount of youngsters or something. So he might come on after 20 minutes, where they give a youngster 20 minutes and he comes on, which is why some of his scores, what some of his playing times look a bit odd when you look at him, like playing on for 74 minutes, playing for 65. But he has the ability to put in good scores. I think you can see his scoring chart's pretty decent over time. And there was a lot of uncertainty about the K-League, wasn't there? Because it took so long for their scores to come in. We had to wait 48 hours where the new card's going to come out. So I think his price was also like prohibited by a lot of K-League uncertainty. So I think you can use some of those uncertainties and some of the other leagues like Peru and K-League and stuff to pick up some actually good bargains. And I think because he puts in some weird scores when he comes on as a short-term sub and gets some of these low ones, it sort of holds his cap down to like a 50 level for an L15 most of the time, meaning that a lot is your main striker in 240, you are going to be able to slot him in as a 50 option most of the time. And then on the occasions where the half the time he's getting 60 or over, he is gonna, do more than his means for the squad. So yeah, I think I like him at 50 because you don't want to get someone that your main striker you then can't plug in every week because his cap goes up too high. So I present him as my first option. What about you, Jess?
Nice. I'm a big fan of Lars. So he was actually one of my choices on my shortlist for Yip. So I would advocate him. I wouldn't discourage you from picking him at all. In fact, but what I would say is you may want to pick him and this next one, although it is a slice of your budget more. So I've gone for Cade Cowell.
Oh, Cade Cowell season, baby. Let's go, San Jose. My boys.
Ricky's a fan. So
Cade
Cowell, why have I gone for him? Many reasons. So firstly is his cap. So he is sitting at 38. So because you've said to us when your focus areas is the 240 limited ETH, not limited, sorry, rare ETH. Something I found playing it, certainly since it's come in, is it's quite hard to actually keep your team consistently at that cap if you've got a smaller squad. So if you're starting with say 9-10 players at the beginning, I'm thinking you want to have players kind of can start at that lower cap but work their way up. So his score, the reason why he's got a low cap, so he plays all the time first of all. That's something to keep in mind as well, which is why I'll play him. He's also under 23 till 2028. So if he suddenly hits fire, everyone's going to suddenly want him because he's under 23 applicable, and that's the way it rolls in America. His scores are very basic though. That's the thing to consider. So ideally he'd be your second choice striker, I would say, which is why Velvik might be a better option. This guy might be a better investment because if he's hitting 37, 38 or even 28, he's actually hitting his cap or below, which isn't ideal for you. But it's when he hits his peaks that he'll probably bring you in that ETH, and it just means that he's always playable. So if you want someone who's always playable and that you can plug and play and then will get you an ETH now and then, I'd say he's a great option. But he may be a better option as a number 2 striker, if I'm honest. I've got him on this list because he's actually my target as my number 2 striker at the minute, having just picked up my first choice striker for MLS.
Nice.
So that's my number 1. Any thoughts on that, Richard or Yip?
I like K-Cal. I think he's cool and I think he looks quite sexy. But that's a large chunk of the budget for someone that scores 30 most weeks. I do think he gets better. I had to predict him to have a breakout season, so it could be a good time to get ahead of the curve. But I'm just worried he's not putting up the 50 plus you need to win ETH enough at the moment. But I'd love to have him long term. I do have him. I got drunk and bought his midfielder card by accident then instead of the forward one. So not ideal. Should we do the other 2 forwards and then we can maybe pick 2 of them?
Yeah, let's do that. Go on, get your second one, Rick.
We're only a small field in the strikers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my second one, I have gone for an injured player who hasn't played yet this season. There you go. How do you like those apples? This is Sergio Cordova, who plays for Vancouver Whitecaps in the MLS. I recommend him because he is about 70 quid at the moment and he hasn't played this season because he's been injured. He's due to be back any game now. So thinking that if you're building over the next few weeks or so, getting him in, he'll be back and playing when you're ready to start firing with your team. So getting ahead of the curve a little bit. I like him because I believe he's their DP striker. So they've signed him to be a big name. They've signed him to be their striker. You don't sign someone on one of those designated player contracts. They only get 3. Yeah. So if you're using one of those up, he's going to get game time. They're not going to sign him and then just never play him. And the reason that I'm confident in him is because he was at Real Salt Lake last year in the same league, where he put up some good scores. You see over here, he's put up some good scores in that patch that he was in the MLS, which is here last year. Lots of dark green. So he's already shown he's got form and he played well for Real Salt Lake, who weren't a great team last year, to be honest. And before that, he was in Germany, I believe, wasn't he, with Augsburg or someone like that. So he's got form in a big league as well. So Vancouver have been really good at home as well. So I think when they're playing at home and teams travel up to Canada and he's their main starting striker, I think he will be able to pump in some good scores for you when they've got good games and getting ahead of the curve before he comes back in the next couple of weeks and getting him in while he's at a really low price point. Is literally what I've just done as well. So that's why he's front of my mind. So I reckon Sergio Cordova is my second recommendation. Over to you, Vitz.
Nice. I like that because he's, like, as you said, he's important in terms of contract, so they're probably obliged to play him or at least give him a chance when he comes back. And he's got a bit of historical data, hasn't he? So not bad at all, especially for the price. Bit of a dice roll. My choice is Julio Furch. It's not the first time I've brought this guy up on the podcast. So he's the Atlas main striker. He is 33, so he's the opposite end of the spectrum to K-Cal. Plays every game. Below sort of 50, which again, I wouldn't go any higher than 50, ideally in this cap league. In terms of like value, you're looking at picking him up for like 80 quid or even less. You can pick him up for 79 quid right now. And then in terms of his scores, he hits so he scores goals basically. So he hits like his peak. He's decisive. So he relies on decisive scores. If he doesn't hit a decisive score, he'll hit you like around 40, 35, 40. But he scores enough goals to generally hit like 60 to 70 plus. And historically, he's always done the same. So even you go back through time, he's always just been a striker that scores goals. And there's him and a guy called Quinones, I think who's a bit more like a winger striker. But yeah, I think he's a proper striker. He offers you additional utility in the Leagues Cup as well, which is like it's not the Champions League of the Americas, but it's like another type of competition, like a cross competition they play. So you got additional chances to play him as well.
Nice.
They do have a funny break in the Mexican League. So the one thing I would say is unless you're like putting a whole Mexican team together, if you add this guy in, just again have another option and check the fixtures. But I think he's really good value for kind of type of striker he is. Don't know what you boys think.
Yeah, nice and solid, isn't he? He's very solid.
He's a good number one or even a 2, right?
Yeah.
And then just
years left on him.
Exactly, yeah. And then just to add to it while we're here, because my wild card's a forward, Rick. So what's yours? Not a forward, I'm guessing?
It won't be a forward, no.
Cool. Well, let me put mine in then. So my wild card choice is a forward, which because you can pick up a forward for 30 quid, and it's Yeboah. So he plays for Columbus. Super low on the cap. His scores aren't obviously going to be great based on that, but again, I follow Crew as my team, so I know this is this season here, so I know he's getting the game time. It's not like he's not starting games, but he's coming on and playing, parts of games. When he plays, he's probably going to hit you around 40-ish. He's more of like a filler than a main player, but he's actually better than his scores suggest. And Wilfred Nance, who's their coach, is super attacking. So the reason why I'm putting this guy in is it just offers you another option for 30 quid of a striker in the MLS who you can follow quite easily, as opposed to defenders or midfielders. But you're not peaking scores. It's more of like gives you security, I guess, having an additional one in there. That's literally the only reason I've done it, is like a backup option. So yeah, that's my wild card.
Cool.
All right.
So what's
do you think?
immediate thoughts?
I think, if I was to lean between the Asian leagues or the American league, I probably would follow the Americans a bit more, and in just purely sense of like there's a bit more consistency in seeing those leagues play out. So like the K leagues, the last few weeks, for example, there was a bit of a delay in seeing the results, and I'm sure that's all going to be fixed in time. So whilst I see Rick's first choice as a solid, definitely going to score you well, I would, in my mind, think the striker in the cap league would need to be on the lower end and that would give you that kind of jump up if they score goals. But if they're kind of on the 50 already, it kind of limits your ability to pick the rest of your squad. That's how I was thinking. So
yeah, so I think.
So what do you reckon then? So these are our main 4 strikers. Yeboah was my kind of wild card in there as well, which we may or may not take in. But I guess, would you choose? Who would we choose out of these guys as our kind of number 1 and then also number 2? Kind of need an agreement, really.
I'd get rid of Cade Cowell. Just for he's a second forward and he's priced like a sort of like a first one for us. So I'd get rid of him.
You're right. Yeah,
price is a bit high.
And maybe we could just leave the other 3 in, and then we can see what we've got once we've got the other positions in, and then cut another one out.
Cool. Should I put your in there as a wild card or not?
Sure, you can add them in, and then we can cut them out later.
Just in case we need it. You never know. You might need it. You'd be surprised.
But that's the thing. It depends on how much the cost of the gallery is going to be.
Yeah.
Right, cool. So that's the end of that one, right? So next up, let's go to the defence. So we'll work through three defenders.
Okay.
So Rick, over to you, mate.
Right, for my first one, based on Yip saying he'd prefer to go for MLS, I'll lead with an MLS to get him in my good book straight away. And I present Daniel Lovitz, who's got a nice moustache, you can see, which is the first thing I find appealing from him. A little goatee, a little soul patch, going on under there as well, which I like. He plays for Nashville. And he costs £56 for a rare, which I think is fantastic value when you look at these scores. Particularly what I like is when you look at the start of the season, some of the AA he's capable of putting around, the all-around score, which, makes a difference for players. So he's got 41 in the last game, 28 in here, 11, 23, 25, 60. He puts up that, which adds to his score, even when they don't get a clean sheet, which is why I find him really appealing. And also, they have the odd stinker, Nashville. So he's got some low ones in here, but that does balance his cap a bit. Again, we're looking at around the 50 mark. This type of player I'm looking at, so you can build in strong players who can score really highly. When he hits these peaks, they're going to do fantastic and get you most of the way towards the cap. So he's really consistent, has the ability to be a really strong scorer, and those peaks for the level he's at score-wise makes him really appealing for a cap 240 team. And I think 56 quid is a steal.
Yeah.
And he just plays all the time as well, which is what you need when you've got a small gallery. You just see 90 minutes constantly, which is what you love to see. So I'm putting forward Big Danny Lovitz for my first one.
Strong start.
Nice. So Lovitz was my first choice as well. So again, I'm not going to discourage you on him. He's one of the better fullbacks in the league as well. So he used to play
the
for
numbers
American
he's throwing up. Yeah, numbers throwing up the value of him. Sounds good.
Yeah, he's I would probably go with him as your number one. As someone else you may consider, John Mensah. So he came across from the Crew this season to San Jose. Reason I pitch him to you is as well. I've got a few players I'll pitch from San Jose. So not only can you then stack them, which is always a nice little approach to have. 35 quid for a first choice centre back who scores well is good.
I thought I was a San Jose fan. You stealing my team nowadays, Jess.
I do like San Jose.
Two.
Yeah. Gotta say it.
You get shirts. Should we go and watch a game? It'd be fun.
He's also like, I don't think he's done it since he's gone across, has he? No, so he hasn't scored since he's gone across to San Jose. But historically at Crew, he's pretty dangerous in the air. So he'd score from corners. So if you look while he was at the Crew, he got got hundreds in there, like 90s almost, 89s, 88s. So whilst his scores are the thing that goes against him potentially here right now is his cap. So he's 53, which is it's not cheap really. Ideally, you'd be under 50 for a defender, but I think he can go higher. He'll have the average game where he hits his 40s and 30 or 38s, whatever they are. But equally, I think he can probably grab ETH in those game weeks where he hits maybe an 80 or a 90 if he scores a goal, like a header from corner, and he's nailed on a play all season. Nathan, the other centre back's out for the year. So yeah, I think as a first choice, if you maybe go for him at 35 quid potentially and couple him with someone else, I think he's a solid option.
I think he's a good, solid player. That's cheap. That's cheap for someone that'll play every game. I like him.
So he's just moved to San Jose this year?
Just moved this season, okay. Yeah, from the Crew, who are my team.
Right, fair enough. Okay, cool.
Next one, Rick, another defender. Who has you got?
Right, I have got Tayo Koga from Kashiwa Rezo in the J League. I couldn't believe his price when I saw him. He used to be a really big name on the platform, really big scorer. I guess because he ages out of under 23, but I guess that's why he was so well liked. But he has been really good over time. You can see his scores. He another one that plays 90 every minute. And look at some of the AA. He puts up 48, 34, 27, 35, 29, 24 in his last two. I mean, he's got a really really solid game. This season, he started really well. I really impressed by those scores. I couldn't quite believe he was only £65. J League's one of the, out of J League and K League, J League's a lot easier to keep up with the news and team, the team news and lineups and stuff. And I think he's a really good price. Again, another just over the 50 mark on his L15. But yeah, I just couldn't believe his price when I saw him, because I was a big fan of him. So if
you look at the last 7-8 games, he's averaged over the 50s. So
I mean, I want to buy one since I found him.
He's a beast, isn't he? I quite fancy that.
And I just thought he would be your more pricey in terms of cap space defender, but he's got a really high floor. And I think for that price, that's just a good asset to have in your squad. So if I was looking at a rebuild, that'd be someone I'd be really happy to have holding up my defence each week.
Got solid hair game as well.
He's got good hair game going on. So my next one, so this is another potential what I would call as a first choice. He wouldn't have been, but he's been absolutely smashing it. And Kosi Tafari. So he plays for Dallas. He's like probably a lesser known player in the league, but this season has been absolutely smashing it. So you pick him up now for like 45 quid-ish. Could have been a bit cheaper before. Again, I don't really like the cap on here, so that's why I'm saying he'd probably be like a first choice option, although we are going for 3 defenders. So maybe actually you decide to pick up 2 decent defenders who can be a first choice. And then, your third one is really good on the cap space. That might be a good tactic. A good thing to look at sometimes is L15 as 53. So pretty high, but decent enough. But his last 5 are 60. So he's actually playing better than his last 15, or he's exceeding his numbers. Which means if you get stuck in fairly soon, and he's got some poorish teams as well, and I'd fancy beating all of these teams here, and maybe even Austin, because they're having quite a poor season. But look at his scores, his AA, he's hitting 60s and 80s, 80s again. I mean, he got a goal and assist, right? Fair, but he's hitting good scores even without doing anything. He's conceded a goal here, and he's still above 50. See the goal there, he's 42. So he's not just relying on clean sheets or a decisive to score fairly well. So yeah, he's my other suggestion, and he'd been under the radar for me, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, Sorare States guys, and they were absolutely going mad about how he's under the radar and no one's picking up on him. So I was like, right, I'm going to pick up on him. Actually, it's a good shout.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at the last few sold compared to what is priced at the moment, could be a good kind of rough diamond, isn't he?
There you go. Ricky T, third choice. Who are we going for?
Right. I've got my wild card as a defender as well. So if I run through 2 quickly.
Go for it.
I had to put one of my Constadole boys in. I can't go through a recommendation podcast for one of my Constadole boys. So I've gone for Shunta Tanaka to mix it up a bit from saying Fukimori all the time. So his last sale, he hasn't had any sales in the last week, but his last one was 34 quid. And the J League cards they've announced are coming in the next few weeks. So he'll be on the market soon. He has quite a high cost, but they played today and they had a man sent off after about 30 minutes and then they got whooped. So he actually put in a 4 today. So once that goes onto his score, I'm saying it's a good thing because it's going to bring his overall cap average down, which is a good thing because the rest of the time he's been starting this season scoring really well. You can see he's really consistent in the greens, which I like for that price. 34 quid for someone with a 60 L5 and a 57 L15 is really good. Hopefully that 4 pegs him down a little bit and that'll stick on for the next 15 games, that 4, to hopefully anchor his L15 a bit. But I really like the scores and the AA he's able to put up, and he started the season well, and Constadole looked stronger at the back than many predicted, apart from getting a red card and getting whooped today. So I'm balancing that on a £35 player that's with a score chart like that, I think, is really, really impressive. And then if I'm chucking in my wild card, it is Jose Quintero. He does have a really nice blonde patch beard, little goat's beard, which I enjoy. He is about 20 quid. He plays in the Peruvian league, so he's not really well known or sought after, but he does really good scores. Just looking at his chart, there's some dark greens in there for that price. And I think the reason his cap's low is because he looks like he's got a pension to get sent off and suspended quite a lot. So there's a red here and out for 2 games, red here out for 3 games, red here suspended for a game.
Okay.
It just looks like his average is kept down by the fact that he's a dirty bastard and he likes to get sent off quite occasionally. But when he's not getting sent off, he scores really well. So I think for a cap player, his average is kept low by the fact that he keeps getting sent off. But when he is playing, he's scoring really well. So
absolute fire.
a boom or bust player for 20 quid with a blonde patch beard. So yeah, I'm throwing him out there as well.
At least you know when he's not playing as well. You know when he's suspended.
Exactly, you know when he's not
Wow.
there.
Yeah.
He's suspended. And for 20 quid is the secondary defender. I think he can come in and do a really good job for the team. So that's the ones I'm throwing up.
Love that wild card, by the way. I mean, just purely on the actual stats, you're like, the reason why he's low is because of these sending off.
It's because he's horrendous at tackling, apparently. But
that's a true wild card.
Mm.
I do like those picks. My last one, so this one I'm picking for you based on cap space. So he would be my choice for you as like number 3 defender to get in. Is Diego Barbosa. So
I actually got him as my limited.
Have you?
Yeah.
Good. Well, there you go. You know a little bit about him. So he was like in the team, then he went out of the team for a bit, which is why his L15 is low. Like 36 is seriously low. But he's played every single game again, and like he's like back in the team. So at 24 quid for a first team player with cap space of 37, and Atlas are a decent side. Like to this at the start was before he was like here. Obviously wasn't playing full time. But if you go from the point he was playing full time, score wise 46, 82, 67. Like there's a couple of rubbish ones in between. Fine, but they were like bad losses as well. They got whipped by Philly. Actually, he's like he can hit you high scores again without decisives as well. So for me, like again, as your third choice, someone you're not relying on, but when you're building your cap team, and if you go, because you've got a small squad, you need someone that you can like be able to slot in to make your other players play.
Yeah,
I think this is a really good option, and a cheap option at that. And even if you get Furchin potentially as a striker, then you know again you've got a team to follow. It's easier to follow what's going on. So let's look at what we've got option wise. So there's our list. This is just our defenders. So if you were to let's go by value, shall we? So you go valuation's probably better than floor, is it, Rick? I don't know. We'll start with
either or.
Start with valuation. Yeah. So you got Koga's your most expensive option, but obviously we looked at him. He looks pretty tasty, but he's taken up most of your cap space. Lovitz, Tafari. So you could argue all 3 of those are first choice potential. Maybe Ments. I don't know about Tanaka. And then a few wild cards down here. So you want 3 defenders out of those guys. Is there anyone that we just eliminate straight away? Anyone too high for their cap, or we're not feeling?
See, because that's the thing. It'll depend on what the midfield and striker valuation cost will be on the ones that we pick. Because Koga sounds great. Lovitz, like you guys have said, is a definite starter. Has really good returns. So I mean, out of those 3, I guess Tafari might have to go out of.
Let's snip Tafari. We've got to be ruthless.
Yeah.
So you got Lovitz and Koga's your more expensive ones.
Yeah.
Maybe keep your 2 cheap options, and then you can see what you're playing with at the end.
I think maybe you might have to keep Barbosa, even though he's probably the worst one. But at some point, you're going to have to get someone whose cap is under 50 because
you need that type of player.
You've got to be 240, so not everyone can be 250. So, maybe you could say Mensah and Lovitz are a MLS pair. So it makes sense to keep them together. And then if you cut Tanaka, and you can see at the end whether we can afford to have Koga, who I think is a great option, but if he might be unrealistic. So maybe we keep the MLS pair and the cheap ones for now, and then see if we can squeeze Koga in. So I think that's a good 5, and then we'll look to cut 2 of them at the end. But Barbosa we might have to keep in, just on the fact that we need someone who's going to be under.
So I picked Barbosa based on the fact that I use him now as my rare, like, makeshift when I can't fit in my best players, and he's genuinely a godsend to be able to do that. And I mean, I'm sure there's other players out there to do it, and if you've got a big gallery, it makes no difference. But if you've got a small gallery like I have, and like you will definitely have, you need at least a player per, I would say, per position that you can slot in, allows everyone else to play.
Yeah, and we're looking at McMath is about 45-ish L15 goalie most of the time, so he gives you a little bit of breather.
Cool, perfect. Right, on to the midfield. Ricky T, over to you.
Okay, my first one is Jose Andres Martinez from Philadelphia Union in the MLS again. £45. He started the season really well. You get international utility with him as well, as he plays for Venezuela. Lots of rumours about him moving in the off-season. Didn't go in the end. I think he probably would go at the end of the season this time round, because he's always got rumours. At some point, he's bound to go. But if you're using MLS over the summer and then he happens to go to Europe after the MLS season, it might not be the worst thing for you if you're looking to branch out after that. He started the season really well, which is why I like him. 21 AA, 36 AA, 28 AA. Really solid scores. Like one of those 50 players you're looking for. When you put them in, you want them to score 51, 52, 55. Get me that cap score. Get me above the average, which you want. And he usually hovers around the 50 mark again, which is the theme I've been kind of going for this whole thing. I want 50 players, 40, 50 players who are then going to be able to peak and score just above for you to get you the money in. He's always in their team. He's one of the best players in his position in the league. He's always raved about. There'll always be a market for him. He's well thought of, and he started this season really well. So they're still in that competition, the one where they played Atlas. They knocked Atlas out. So
CCL.
So you get bonus games out of him as well, and that will have a midweek market for him as well. So I really like him. He's a mainstay in the team, and high hopes for him going forward.
Solid.
Nice choice, Richard. I like it. So my first choice for you, Albert Rusnak. So he used to be the best player at RSL. When was it, a year and a bit ago? Before he transferred across to the Sounders. Since he's gone to Sounders, he's like had to slot into the Sounders, like arguably the best team in the league, maybe top 3. The reason I've gone for him is because A, that they're such a good team. B, for a top player in a top team, 46 is now 15 feels very low to me. Price wise at 63 quid, or even if you had to pay closer towards the floor price at 79, that appeals. This is a player who appeals to me. I would buy him at that price. If you go at his fixtures, Portland, Pants, Minnesota average, Salt Lake, Pants, like he's got some very good promising fixtures coming up. Score wise, like again, since he's like shifted in this position, that you would look at and go, right, it's quite average. Although again, Rick was saying just then it's quite good to have those that can grind out around that sort of score, 50-ish. I always think you've got to look at, can you beat your cap? So 46 is his cap. He's going to hit there or thereabouts plus most of the time. So I think he actually offers you a bit of additional like plus on his cap, and he's just a very good player. If you go through his history, like he used to hit loads of peak scores. So they've changed him positionally at Seattle, which is why he doesn't hit as high, but he's got it in the bank. So I think you might actually get some peaks out of him, and he's just in a top team. So it's nice to have like a solid player that plays every game in a good team. He's my first choice option for you.
Cool.
Rick?
Yeah, my next option is my smasher for the team. My little bit of spending some budget, £90 on Mauricio Herrera from Orlando. He is a really important player for them. He starts every game. He's start of the season has been a bit up and down, so he's going to lose a couple of the highest scores, and his L15 should come down nicely for when you actually start using him. But he's a really important role-playing, attacking midfielder for them, who has got the ability to put up good bunches of scores when they have good fixtures. He's really important for them. He just signed on again at the start of this season, I believe, which he's just like a big name for them. Really impressive player, skillful, and he's a really solid banker that you can just plug in each week. So I really like him, and I think he'd be great.
Cool.
Nice. Good choice, mate. Good choice. I like that a lot. So my next option for you is I'm sticking with a slight theme here, just in case you kind of do follow my lines. So Aldo Rocha from Atlas again. So you got the option of having Rocha, Furch, and Barbosa, or none of them. L15 of 47. His L5 is lower, so that means his L15 will drop, keeping you within cap. Cheap to buy, 43 quid. He plays every game. Historically, he's one of the main players. There was one little gap where he didn't. But there's also a spell. So before his injury here, he had a spell where he was hitting really good scores as well. So historically, very, very strong. So kind of he's come back from his injury, and his scores have been pretty good, but not like quite as good. So I think there's again more peaks in there for him, and I think probably you're looking at a player that's going to do a bit more for you. The reason why he's cheaper again at the minute is he just got a red last game. But I quite like that. For me, that's a good time to pick someone up, because realistically, the way you're building at the minute, someone who would use him tomorrow, you're happy to wait for a week or two, and you can be using your other players, and do quite well out of that. So yeah, Rocha is my second option for you. Ricky T, what's your number 3?
Oh, I got myself into Peruvian love hole earlier on, and I ended up on someone called Ezequiel Piovi. Again, 60 quid, but I think his price is suppressed by the fact that he plays in Peru. But that fits in with the American League theme that we're basically going for. And I think for that price, he is an absolute smasher. I say that because he can put in the all-around game. 12, 16, 38, 22, 28, 40, 28. He can really hit these really spiky, nice scores. For something you don't usually see for 0.04, really nice, solid scores at the top. It's like a foundation for him. I think it's the Peruvian League thing that people are like, they don't really care about the Peruvian League, do they? They want Premier League players because they're shiny. But he will fit in with a American style theme, and he'll go into your Champion America team, so going with the Cap 40 with the other Americans. So yeah, I think he fits really well in the theme we're going for at a nice price, and he has the ability to put up, 90s, 70s, 80s. So I think at 60 quid, he's a really solid choice over in Peru.
Nice. Cool. I like it, mate. I like it.
If we're going to have players in Peru, so it could be quite good.
Yeah. The other one is it Norway that plays over the summer as well? I didn't find anyone from Norway, but I didn't really look. But they play all summer as well, so that's always a good thing to keep in mind.
That'd be why you didn't find anyone, mate, if you didn't look.
Yeah. There's only so much research I can do in between pints, all right?
Right, so that's 5 midfielders I'm counting there: Pereira, Piove, Resnac, Rocha, and Martinez. So I'll give you one more. So I was debating this one. It could go either way. We've covered this guy. Rick's covered.
Oh
this guy.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, he knows him well.
You'll never forget this name.
So I've picked him A because we love him, B because 50's all right-ish for a cap. I see him probably as Yeah.
Just criticise my research, and you've picked 3 San Jose players and 3 Atlas players. So it looks like you just got stuck on 2 team pages, mate. That was.
Well, I don't know if you ever heard of something called stacking, Rick, but I've heard it's quite successful.
I mean, this guy is the cap goat. He is. I would pick him on every show if I could, but I thought it would get quite boring. But he is 240 cap man himself.
So you're saying you were going to deprive Yip of the cap goat?
Yeah, well, I own about 7 copies of him. I just can't. It feels like a pump if I just keep telling everyone to buy Jackson Newell for cap.
So he's pretty solid, isn't he? He's just like, he's going to hit you around 50 or 45 to 55 pretty much every single week, with the occasional 60-ish peak. And his peaks are not that he doesn't get goals. So God knows what would happen if he got a goal. But generally speaking, you're looking at like, if you plug him in, you're looking at around the 50-ish mark, and you're getting him for 50. So he's not going to take you places, but he's super reliable. So that's, you kind of ticked a 1 out of 5 box almost. Do you know what I mean? So I quite like that. It takes an element of risk away, and he doesn't DMP either. He plays every single game. So for me, yeah, as much as I didn't want to chuck in another San Jose player or Rick's little love child, I felt like I didn't have any other choice really.
You'll never regret buying him.
And again, so I've owned him historically. I don't own him at the minute, but he is on my own personal target list for this exact reason, because I'm kind of playing to target the similar leagues that you are. I'm just probably a little bit further ahead. That's all.
No.
So yeah,
Right.
That's our 6 mids. So if I whack them up on screen, we'll see if we can get rid of anyone on there, or if anyone sticks out. So going from valuation wise again, Pereira is obviously a lot more than the other players, but arguably can hit your better scores, and it's probably good to have a stud in your team. I don't know.
Because I feel like Pereira is probably the stud across the whole set of options given.
Yeah, I would agree. He's going to take up almost 60 of space, right? So the other thing to consider is like he's 58 already. If you want him to exceed his cap, then he'll end up taking up more space, which is fine if you've got 3 midfielders, because you just have to drop him out at some point or play him in another division. But it depends who you play with him. Like POV sticks out to me as maybe a drop initially based on his price and cap. I don't know. Rick, you may disagree.
I quite like. Obviously, it's hard to tell where you are with money, but I quite like the Rusnak, Yule, Martinez, MLS triple in there.
It's pretty clean, isn't it?
Pretty good value. So I'd like to keep Pereira, but he might be too much. So maybe we ditch POV and Rocha.
Yeah.
And see where we go.
We go and see overall where we are on money, and then see how much more we've got cut off, and then we'll start slicing people away.
Okay, so should we add everyone to the mix now then?
Yeah, let's see where we're at. We're going to be miles over.
At?
So if you go up to the top, you can click on price.
Prices, yeah.
And cumulative value.
Is that it down there? 756?
Yeah. Cumulative value should give you 756. So we're well over, aren't we? So we need to get in each category and cut away.
But we have got 15 players there, mind. So
yeah. So we need
bad, is it?
We need to make a cut in each section, essentially, don't we?
Yeah. So should we filter again? It's pretty easy to do it by the filter, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we start off with defenders, that makes sense. So defender-wise, I think we have to keep Barbosa just for the flexibility.
True.
There's no one else near that score.
Yeah, so I think we need to get rid of one of the top 2 of Lovitz or Koga for money-wise. I think.
Are we keeping Quintero? Oh, because he's cheap.
I think just to save the money, or we could get rid of Quintero
Quintero has the pretty much same cap as Koga. So the only thing, if you can afford Koga, to me, it feels a better option of a 24-year-old in J League versus whatever the league this is.
So I guess it's either Quintero or Menza, really, isn't it? Because in honesty, I'd like to keep Koga in as a
Yeah, it's good to have one really good defender, isn't it? You've got
exactly, yeah.
a super flexy one there.
All right, let's get rid of Quintero then.
Yeah, I'd drop Quintero. So for now, we got those 4. Maybe we have to chop one more.
I think we probably have to trot one more, don't we?
Do we?
I think
To be
Mensa
honest.
might need to go.
I think maybe
Lovitz is 56, 60 quid. 37.
So we have to get rid of. I think it's probably Lovitz or Mensa we get rid of then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess the thing to think about, right, is what you're getting for a player. They're basically the same age. L15 and 53 versus an L15 and 52. So basically the same L15. Price wise, you're going to pay close to 60 quid or close to 35 quid.
That's because Lovitz can get the higher scores, can he? He gets assists and decisives, and
that's true.
Yeah.
So maybe actually it's worth the extra 15 quid on this. Should we get rid of Mensa?
Let's cut Mensa, and if we're too far over, we can come back and swap Lovitz for Mensa.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right. So cumulatively, right now we've managed to drop down to 700 quid.
So we're still a long way away.
We've got time. So we want to go to,
because I think striker wise, we still got quite a lot of value in it.
Yeah.
We?
Do you want to go straight? Let's go to striker.
Striker.
Because we're looking at what's that? Free.
So we've got Veldvik, Furch, Boa, and
yeah.
Cordova. So we don't need all of those.
I would chuck away. I'd keep Cordova, and I would chuck your Yeboah, and I would get rid of one of Furch or Veldvik, and I think it might have to be Veldvik on price.
I mean, they're not that far off each other, to be honest.
Veldvik
gives you peaks, and they're basically the same cap again as well, aren't they?
I suppose.
Although
with Veldvik, it's his last 5 games, his average is going to fly if he keeps his consistency up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. He's going to be pulling you away.
Yeah.
Furch you can play with Barbosa as well as an option.
Yeah.
When they have a game.
All right, let's chuck Yeboah and Veldvik then.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And let's get tucked into the midfielders.
How are we looking now? That's probably going to make a big impact. 586.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're almost there.
Yeah. So then midfield. We're going to go for, what are we looking at? Yul, Rusnak, Pereira, and Martinez. See, they're all solid, aren't they?
What's our aim? What's our total aim price again? Was
540.
Yeah. So
we're 46 quid over.
Yeah, not far at all. I mean, and if Yip sold his gallery for its exact value, we could afford it. It would be almost a perfect trade-off.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it ain't going to happen unless you find an idiot.
If we cut one midfielder, I think we can say that that's a nice balanced build then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I would either
Let's get them up. Sorry, I'll get back up screen.
I would even consider potentially cutting my thought process would be cut Pereira and then add in Veldvik over Furch would be my thought process. That would probably get you there. So it cuts off 100 and adds on about another 30, doesn't it? So
because then that's where that kind of is Pereira the top marquee signing of the group or
as a 58 cap at 33 years old, this is as good as he's getting. Do you want to spend 100 quid on that? No.
Yeah, is he just taking up too much of our space straight away?
Well, the thing is, you can plug and play, in particular these two. You could probably play the whole season with these two, knowing they're going to play every single game.
And Martinez, that middle three I really like is a cap midfield. I think they're great. And then I think you probably upgrade Furch to Veldvik. And then I think...
Yeah, let's do that.
And I think we're about there. And I think that's a really solid team, solid midfield base, and then lots of players that can have peaky scores in defence and up front. So I would like their chances of hitting.
We've got Lars. Let's have a look at that. Prices. 497, so well within range. So in fact, so we've managed to get that to, if you sold your gallery at,
No,
I think it's around,
yeah, that's right.
yeah, if you sold your gallery at around, I think it worked out as, was it 80% to get you there? Yeah. If you
About 600, isn't it? Yeah, 80%.
yeah.
Roughly
And that would,
480. Yeah.
And then you could maybe add in a limited goalkeeper from the MLS, someone like Powell, for example, who's just coming back, not back from injury yet, but probably will be by the time you're up and running. 30 quid for a limited, and then he can plug in with your MLS players as well.
Do you know I think he was on the bench the other day. Did you see that, Rick?
I didn't see he was on the bench. So yeah, he's just come back, and I think he's going to be back playing for a really good team. So
okay,
he'd be a really nice option as like the limited goalie to go with them as well, which would push you up and over £500.
You're probably not going to get a better keeper for that price, are you? I can't think. The only other keepers around that range in that league off the top of my head is like JT Masanowski, who's not that great and might lose his place. Eloy Room, who's injured and not as good as him. Westberg, who's old and rubbish. So yeah, I think Ivacic is the only other option. Who's, so what have we got? L15 and 42 here, and Ivacic is, I think it might be similar. I think he's 42 as well. I picked one up the other day, 41, 27 quid. So yeah, again, if you want to play tomorrow, maybe Ivacic, but out of the two, who's better? Crepeau's way better. So yeah, maybe add Crepeau to your shortlist, and then I think you're probably set.
I like it. That's a solid summer 240 cat rare team. I like it.
30 quid on top of what was it we spent? 497. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, it's about 530 quid, which is bang on.
8 players. Get 2.
And that means you can sell your limited goalies in Europe if you want to as well. Doing that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love it.
We actually did it. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You'll never believe we did it.
Yeah. What do you think, mate? Do you does that fill you with confidence or fear?
I mean, this is where it kind of if you're grinding out the E for that 240 mark, you want a player that if their cap is at 50, you want them to hit 50 at a minimum, kind of guaranteed. And some of those players are exactly that. So it's almost like you can put them in with the confidence that they will definitely get you past the 250, and then you get your reward. You're not looking to win cards. There might be a chance, every chance, because a goal can creep in here or there. But yeah, that looks really solid.
There's some peaky scores in there as well. You could get, they hit right. You can get some decent scores out of those. I really like the players, a solid midfield and some peaky defenders and strikers. So yeah, I think the beers are starting to hitting because, like I said, a peaky about 150 times in the last 20 minutes. But yeah,
are you peaking?
I just had the wife come home from Hender as well.
I feel like the midfield was stronger than what I'm using at the minute, which is worrying.
Yeah, no, I like it. Good stuff.
Great.
I'm having a little play in the background a minute. Let me get it on screen before we jump off. So I'm just having a little play to see actually, like, if you built your team this week, what cap space would you have? So this is a 240 I was building.
Right.
So you left still. I've just got. I mean, you could play whoever you want. But you got your main striker, who I would argue the best two midfielders, potentially your keeper, and then defence. So who do we have as the defenders? We had. It's just out of interest, really, more than anything. So we had the option of Koga's 55, so he wouldn't be able to play. Barbosa's 36, which is why it's worth having him. And Lovitz is 52. So this is a great example of why you'd have Barbosa if you want to play like the best in all the other positions, because that's the only way you could enter him. Or you could go, right, okay, well, maybe I'll free up my space with Veldvik when, what's the other guy that comes back? Cordova comes back because he's lower.
Cordova comes back, yeah.
So when Cordova comes back, you can have a better defender playing with Cordova. Or Veldvik has a similar score to Jackson Ewell, for example. So you drop out Ewell, play Veldvik, Cordova, plus a better defender, and that's actually not too bad at all. So yeah, I think looking at that, you kind of covered enough bases. the only argument you could have is maybe you've got 3 solid central midfielders. Maybe you could have find a cheap pickup as you go as well. Maybe as you pick up a rare thresh, just to be able to maneuver those a little bit more as well. But yeah, I think that's a really solid team. I mean, particularly we didn't have crazy money there, did we? So
yeah, and if you line them up correctly, they I'm just having to play as well. There's some prize. They would have won prizes at certain times if you use the right ones at the right combinations. They're prize winning. But the midfield is the solid bit. But that's what we want. I want to win. I want to win those $50 ETHs throughout the summer, and that team is more than capable of doing that. So yeah,
perfect.
Good stuff.
Cap space to play with. You've got 11 cap to play with that team, for example, if you played it tomorrow, that's a lot. So that's multiple game week entries to win if it goes right. That is.
Well, yeah, you could put Martinez in instead of Rusnak, and you could put one of the Lovitz in at the back, or Koga instead of Yule in the slot. So yeah, lots of options there to play around with.
So yeah, I guess that answers the question to a point of does it is now the right time to restructure? What do you think? Yep, is it?
Because if I priced my players properly, to what the market's rates are, they probably stand a better chance of selling. But I have tried to sell a few players on and off for the last few weeks, and they're just not really selling. So have to kind of dig into the Discord or try and trade, see if there's any of those players up in the Pavel Trader and that kind of thing, and see what they do. But yeah, or I can somehow find some squirreled away ETH somewhere. Or
I forgot about your little ETH interest.
Yeah,
a good summer to target that threshold while the rare prices are low, and getting $50 of it in each week, or once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. It's almost a decent player, that much ETH at the moment. So yeah. Well,
you're building a team there, for what was it, 530 quid we got to in the end, and you're winning 50. Obviously, I think the dollar's dropped a bit, hasn't it? But if you were to equate it to a pound roughly, I know it's not.
Yeah,
you're hitting nearly 10% of, let's call it 8% of what your build is worth, and that's quite a lot of money just in one game week when you've got 2 game weeks per week. And I know typically you're only gonna get one chance because of the way fixtures fall, but still, I like those odds. I think that's a pretty good chance of you returning what you want. And then the question is do you keep building for that team, or do you have the tactic in mind that Europe's coming up, so I'm actually just going to save that ETH with a target of having a European goalkeeper, and at the end doing a bit of a restructure at the end. Don't know.
And I think that's the thing. It's timing it so that there's that opportunity right now to win a bit of the ETH, ready to have that team play out and give you that time to think about Europe when it comes back, in August. So
cool. Well, yeah. Anyway, there you go. So your shortlist is live. It's there if you want it, or it can be hidden away forever, never looked at again. Depends what you think of it. But
thank you very much. Yeah, otherwise, that's definitely very handy.
It's been great having you on board with us, and we wish you the best of luck with your build, mate.
Yeah, cheers. Hopefully. Yeah, enjoyed that. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys, and have the great rest of your weekend.
Woo! Cheers, boys.
Sorare Thursday Club.
Oh yeah, it's Thursday, isn't it? All right, cheers, boys.
Cheers, boys.